Personally, I think most of my opinions are fairly middle of the road and unremarkable, but I want to take this video to directly address one of the most controversial positions that I hold, and that is my stalwart and unequivocal support for this man, Captain Edward Jellico, and I'm going to do that in this video, which I am calling, as you have already deduced if you've read the title, Why Captain Jellico is Actually Pretty Awesome. This episode is mostly remembered for its A story, which involves Captain Picard, Dr. Crusher, and Worf being sent on a secret mission to locate and destroy a Cardassian weapon, which turns out to be a trap to capture Picard, who is subsequently tortured for the purpose of extracting information about Starfleet's defenses of a strategically valuable planet the Cardassians were hoping to annex. It's the There Are Four Lights episode, where Picard defeats his captors by insisting on accurately counting the number of lights over the head of David Warner, no matter how hard they torture. Hey, I forgot about this part. Is this Star Trek or NYPD Blue? Jimmy Smits, eat your heart out. Anyway, the Picard stuff is great. Awesome performances from Patrick Stewart and also David Warner as Gul Madred. But what really makes Chain of Command a top-tier episode for me is the B story, which features this awesome guest character, Captain Jellico, played by Ronnie Cox. Jellico comes in and assumes command of the Enterprise in Picard's absence and leads negotiations against the Cardassians, who have been gathering a whole bunch of their ships near the Federation border. Jellico comes in and shakes things up on the Enterprise. He pushes the crew harder than they've been pushed by Captain Picard in quite a long time, because he feels he needs to get them ready for a possible military confrontation with a formidable enemy. And his brusqueness and his impatience and demanding ways kind of rubs the crew the wrong way. And it also rubs a lot of my fellow Star Trek The Next Generation fans the wrong way. And many people now regard Jellico as kind of a dick. But I don't think that's fair. I get why people on board the Enterprise might not like Jellico. He wants things done his way. He has no interest in how things were done before he got there, and he doesn't feel that the situation allows him to give the crew time to adjust to his command style. Within moments of beaming aboard, he's ordered Commander Riker to change the crew rotation from 3 shifts a day to 4 shifts a day, which is such a major shakeup that Riker kinda doesn't do it. When Jellico finds out, he embarrasses Riker in front of Picard. Then when Riker leaves, he turns to Picard and he's like, "What do you keep him around for?" And Picard says, "Well, actually, he's pretty good if you just give him a chance." And Jellico's like, "You know what I think is pretty good? Not losing Federation planets to alien empires that hate us." And that is Jellico's motivation throughout the entire show. He's been given command of the Enterprise for a very particular reason: to lead negotiations with Cardassians who are definitely up to something. We're told that he's done this sort of thing before. He's bargained with Cardassians in the past, and he knows how to handle himself with them. He's less interested in forming lifelong bonds with the crew than he is in accomplishing the job he's been given. And when he realizes that Picard's crew is not prepared for the task at hand, he tries to whip them into shape as quickly as he can. Riker, get an extra duty shift into rotation. Geordi, increase the efficiency of those warp coils. Troy, put on a proper uniform. You're at work, for Christ's sake. Does Picard seriously let you dress like that on duty? Did you never think it was a little unfair that you were the only officer on the entire ship who came to work every day out of uniform? Alright, Jesus, I'll wear my uniform, Captain Hardass. And keep wearing it even after I'm gone for the rest of the series! What really cements Jellico as a villain in the eyes of the crew and the eyes of many of my fellow Trek fans is how Jellico reacts when the Cardassians inform him that Captain Picard has been captured. Jellico's like, "Well, that sucks for him, but I don't know anything about it." And then the Cardassians leave, and Riker's like, "Dude, you have to tell them Captain Picard was captured while on an official Starfleet mission. That way he'll be protected by our prisoners of war treaty, and they won't be able to torture him." And Jellico's like, "Listen, dipshit, if I tell them Picard went in there on official Starfleet business, then we look like total assholes, and the Cardassians have the upper hand in our negotiations. Also, they might use the fact that we're sending people into their territory on secret missions to start, shooting at us." And Riker gets all self-righteous and says, "I can't believe you would sacrifice Captain Picard just to save everyone else's life and maybe stop a terrible war." And Jellico's like, "Well, I would, so deal with it." And Riker's like, "I'm going to show you my pouty face." And Jellico's like, "Don't you show your pouty face to me. You know what? You're relieved of duty. Get out of here." I'll make Data my first officer, since he should have been promoted like 3 years ago anyway. And Jellico does promote Data, even puts him in a snazzy red command uniform. And Data's like, right? I totally should have had this job a long time ago. I just know I'm going to be the best first officer ever, and I can't wait to serve my ship in this capacity for years and years. And then like 2 days later, Captain Picard is back and he's like, take off that red uniform and get back behind your desk, C-3PO. Anyway, back to Jellico's willingness to abandon Picard. Of course, he seems like a heartless bastard to Riker, because Riker loves Picard. And we love Picard too. We've been watching the show for almost 6 years at this point. But remember, Jellico's loyalties aren't to Picard. Jellico's loyalties are to the Federation, the interests of which he has been tasked with representing in this confrontation with the Cardassians. And also, his loyalties are with the people aboard the Enterprise while he is in command, whose lives would be further endangered if he allowed himself to look vulnerable in these negotiations with the Cardassians. In choosing not to go to Picard's rescue, Jellico is making the tough but necessary choice. He is choosing the needs of the many, rather than the needs of the few or the one, which I believe is a fairly common theme in Star Trek. Would any of us be questioning this if it was Spock doing it rather than Captain Jellico? And isn't it also exactly the same sort of tough choice that Counselor Troi had to make the following season when she had to send holographic Geordi, poor holographic Geordi, to his death to save the ship in order to pass her bridge officer's test? This is a message that Star Trek sends us over and over and over. Being a starship captain means sometimes making the tough choice and accepting that there are no-win situations where sometimes you just can't save everybody. And by the way, looking sharp in that uniform. Of course, Picard is ultimately returned to the Enterprise. This is Star Trek The Next Generation, after all. It was made in the 90s, before TV producers started killing off major characters just to fuck with their audiences. Geordi does some science stuff and deduces that the Cardassian fleet is hiding in a nearby nebula, so Jellico decides to sneak into the nebula with a shuttlecraft and lay a bunch of mines near the Cardassian ships. And while Geordi's getting the shuttle ready, Jellico comes in to check up on him, and he's like, hey, let's bond. What can we bond over? You want to swap stories of past romantic conquests? And Geordi's like, I don't really have any of those that I'm comfortable sharing. And Jellico's like, okay, well, what about pilot shit? Because I used to be a shuttlecraft pilot before I was king shit starship captain. And Geordi's like, hey, me too, cool. But you know who's the best pilot ever? Commander Riker. And you should get him to do this mission. So Jellico's like, okay, I don't like Riker, but if he's the best person for the job, I'll swallow my pride and go ask him to do it. So Jellico goes to Riker's quarters. And he's like, am I disturbing you? Is this a bad time? And Riker's like, nope, come on in. And Jellico's like, are you sure? Because you look like you're in your pajamas there. And Riker says, no, I've just been sitting here hitting refresh on Starfleet's homepage waiting for Captain Picard's obituary to come up since you left him to be tortured to death by Cardassians. And Jellico's like, yeah, well, we've got this idea to fly a shuttlecraft into the nebula where the Cardassians are hiding and put mines on all their ships. And Riker's like, oh yeah? That's nice. And Jellico's like, look, you've been nothing but a shit to me since I got here. I'm your boss, dude, and you don't even try to do what I tell you to do. You're like a really terrible first officer. And Riker's like, well, you're a shitty captain because you're played by Ronnie Cox and you always turn out to be evil. You were evil in RoboCop, you were evil in Total Recall, you were evil in Mission Impossible. Jellico's like, that last one wasn't me, that was John Voight. And Riker's like, whatever, you're mean. You make it so nobody enjoys their job. And Jellico's like, you know what I enjoy? When we all don't get murdered by Cardassians. That's one of my favorite things, but maybe that's just me. But anyway, even though you're a dick and insubordinate, I won't order you to fly this mission. And Riker gets this amazing shit-eating grin on his face and says, then ask me. And Jellico's like, you're such an asshole. Will you do the mission? And Riker's like, oh, I guess. And then right before Jellico makes it out the door, Riker's like, you're welcome. Jellico leaves, and Riker is like, I'm completely in the wrong, but it's cool because the audience will be totally on my side. And the plan to mine the Cardassian ships works like a charm. Jellico's like, hey, get out of here. We'll blow up all your ships, you jerks. And also, give us back Captain Picard. And the Cardassians are like, fine, whatever, let's just get out of here. So let's recap. Captain Jellico accomplishes the mission that he was sent to the Enterprise to do, and in doing so, always makes decisions with the interests of the Federation and the people on the ship under his command in mind, and he even gets the Cardassians to give back Captain Picard. But we're supposed to think he's a bad guy because he's a little brusque with the crew, has no patience for Commander Riker's blatant insubordination, and tells Counselor Troi to put some goddamn clothes on? Look, I'm not unsympathetic to Riker, okay? Full disclosure, I'm a little bit of a Commander Riker fanboy. He's one of my favorite characters. I get why Riker doesn't like Jellico. I just don't get why I shouldn't like Jellico, which is why I do like him. And in fact, think he's actually pretty awesome. This concludes my presentation. Hey folks, hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching. If you are a fellow Star Trek The Next Generation fan, what do you think of Captain Jellico? Is he the hero I have made him out to be, or is he the heartless prick that Commander Riker thinks he is? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and please consider helping me to make more videos like this one by becoming a supporter of this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.